Hi everybody, I'm Donna Terrell and this is Terrell Talk. This is the third installment with Superintendent Mike Poore from the Little Rock School District. We've been talking about a number of things. We were talking about student scores, victory over violence, violence in schools. We were talking about the blueprint. Now we're going to move on to something else. And I had saw this article. You corrected me, but I want to talk about it anyway. Little Rock, no longer the largest district in the state. What is that about?
Well, first off, there is the reality that we have been losing students now for a 3-year trend. That's coming in multiple ways, and it's actually a historical trend that has been going on for decades. Okay. So, you know, we want to turn that around, and that's a part of the work we've done to improve facilities over the summer, hard work our staff is putting forth on, you know, putting out a better product to improve achievement. But the reality is we've lost students, and we lost some again this year. The difference in just the numbers game so far is that I think the paper may have been a little bit premature because they didn't count in our pre-K numbers.
And they're comparing Little Rock to Springdale, just for clarification purposes on that, saying that Springdale has somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 more students than Little Rock.
And that didn't take into account our pre-K program. But, you know, we don't really finalize any of our numbers until October. And it's the first part of October. They call it October 10, and so we got that to deal with. But we have a really strong pre-K program. We have actually about 1,500 seats there, and we're pretty much usually at capacity in those programs.
Let's kind of go back to what we were talking about before. You know, with pre-K, it's important to get to those students. We were talking about gang violence and students that just kind of fall through the cracks. And I've always heard, I don't know if it's changed or not, that, you know, you need to start working with students in pre-K. You were saying third grade. By the time kids get to third grade, they need to be reading at a certain level in order to comprehend what they have to learn from that point and beyond.
Yeah, okay, so here's a shocking statistic. If there's a family that's a working family and really just, you know, it's tough socioeconomic situation, that family, because of its working environment, the students that come in to a kindergarten typically have 500,000 less vocabulary words that they've heard.
What?
So that's a statistic that should cause us all to say, whoa, what can we do? So what are we doing? Well, first off, we've got the Imagination Library, which is a part of Dolly Parton. Every child right now in Pulaski County, not just Little Rock, and this is through the Rotary and the Chambers and the school districts, all of us working together, that every month a child will get a book in the mail that they can read. If you have 2 children under 5, they'll get 2 books every month. Awesome. So that's a starting point. Another thing that we do is we have a great partnership with AR Kids Read. They bring in all sorts of folks into our schools to help mentor and read to our children and tutor. That's a powerful delivery.
And you need to hit them when they're young and make them want to read, because I've gone into some schools and I've asked, you know, do you like to read, and, you know, raise your hand. Yeah. And sometimes you don't get a lot of people raising their hands and you think, okay, this is not good. Plus you're at school right now. If you don't read anywhere else, it should be here. But young kids oftentimes don't read recreationally.
That's so right, and so getting the passion, you know, involved, and I think sometimes adults can help spark that. So we have, you know, a wonderful thing happening with volunteerism in our schools. Last year we had $27 million worth of volunteer hours, and a lot of that's going into those elementary schools to do things where people read, and that's from faith-based organizations to sororities and fraternities and business leaders. So we love that. But we also think that we should do more in terms of advancing other pre-K opportunities. So maybe that's a part of even the solution with the blueprint, that some of the buildings that we don't use to turn those into pre-K centers that would allow families to have access to those programs. Yeah. And it wouldn't necessarily be based on, right now we do all of our pre-K more or less on folks that most need it. And that's important. We don't want to let that go.
Of course.
But we want to offer it to a wider opportunity.
To a wider group. Let me ask you, since we started this with Little Rock losing students, how big of an effect do charter schools have when you look at this equation? I mean, we've always had private schools, but now you get a charter school almost on every street corner. I mean, they're just popping up everywhere.
Well, we do have an advanced number of charter schools in our community, and you know, I have been outspoken multiple times to say that I think we're making a mistake. I do think that in the future, you know, one of the things that we have to realize, and it's a part of our blueprint, is that parents appreciate choice. And I believe in choice, but we need to be smart about our choices of how we operate that, and we all ought to be working together to create the opportunities.
But let me just say this, and I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon. I have one big question, biggie, that I saved for the very end. But as a parent, when you do have those choices and you hear and understand, we talked about JA Fair, for example, and the environment there, the fact that the school, not the students, not the teachers, but the school itself is just not the best place to walk into in terms of environment. Now, if I have to choose between that and a charter school that's nice, clean, pretty, beautiful, all of that, what do you think I'm gonna go with?
Well, and that same argument could be said about why some people have moved to Bryant and Cabot and Conway. And so, you know, our investment in terms of fixing our buildings, and we've done a lot of work over the summer. I'm very proud of that. We have to continue to do that, and we have to continue to find other ways to create solutions. But we also have to highlight the things that we're doing that make us unique and different and special. And you know, I hope, I know you follow me on Twitter, that we've tried to have an explosion of positivity in sharing what our staff and our students and our community are doing in Little Rock, because we think that we offer some things that charters flat out don't. And we've got to do a better job of promoting that.
Let me just ask you this. You're a popular superintendent. Everybody knows Mike Poore. You get out in the community. But there is a chance that Little Rock School District, Little Rock will gain local control. Johnny Key has said that himself. I think there's even a target date for that. What would that mean for Mike Poore?
Well, that's probably a little undetermined.
You were hired by the state. So that's the point that I'm making here. You were hired by the state. The state loses control. You're still here. People like you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you will stay. You know what I'm saying here?
You know, I've never had people make me feel so good by saying you're back, and you know, that's almost a sad statement, because there has been such turmoil. And if you look at, you know, what, and I hope I'm that guy, but you know, stability does matter, especially in an urban environment, in a school system as large as ours. Stability does matter. At the same time, you know, when a board comes in, they control at that point, and so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I feel confident that you know, I'll be a part of that solution, and I'll look forward to working with the board whenever they come together.
Well, I know you have a lot of people that are pulling for you, and they want to see you continue, so I wish you the very best. And I really do want to thank you for being my first guest on Terrell Talk.
It was just awesome to be asked and to hear that I was the first, and it kind of creates a special bond that I feel like we've always had, and I appreciate everything you do for our community.
Thank you.
There's so many things, you know, you brought people to tears at Rotary with your personal story. And the things that you do, the Yoga Warriors, the things that you do on behalf of your daughter, Memory, and then what that does for an impact on so many others. And so you have a big print in this community too, and I thank you.
Thank you. Now you're going to make me tear up. All right. That's going to do it for this segment of Terrell Talk. I want to thank Mike Poore for being with me. Thank you for joining us on Fox16.com. We'll be back again next week.